This is Grammar Bits Part 2 of the varied sentence structure. We did Part 1 on Monday and covered 4 different types of sentences: introductory prepositional phrases, introductory adverbs, both of which need to have commas after them when they're put at the beginning of sentences, figurative language, similes, metaphors, and personification, and appositives. So we're going to go through and do a review of the next 4 types of sentences that we've talked about in class, and then students will have an assignment using this to practice it in their writing. So for varied sentence type number 5, the imperative sentence. And students should have in class taken notes underneath there. We said an imperative sentence is also another way of saying a command. There's just 2 different proper terms for it. And a command always has that understood you for the subject. It's not there, but it's just understood. It's recognized that you are the subject, but we don't actually say it. So for my example, I have the sentence, help the poor woman. And again, students kind of kept in line with the theme that they were writing on, and mine was spiders. And so help the poor woman is a sentence. The understood you is your subject. You, and then your verb would be help. So in many cases, an imperative sentence actually starts with an action verb. It's telling somebody what to do. So one that students might hear in class is do your homework. Take out the trash. Run to the corner. In each of these cases, the subject is an understood you. It's a command. We don't walk up to people and say, you do your homework, you take out the trash, you run to the corner. It's just kind of understood that you are the subject of that sentence. So in an imperative sentence, I'm instructing students that they should start it with an action verb. And in many cases, it could be a linking verb. It doesn't have to start with an action verb, but in this case, we're going to just kind of get them used to that, and that's kind of the rule of thumb. The next type of sentence is an infinitive, and we also have talked about these many times in identifying them in sentences, but we haven't actually written them. So that's why this is kind of something a little new. But students should be able to recognize an infinitive. It's to plus a verb. To scare her, the spider dropped right in front of her face. In this case, we're looking at putting our infinitive at the beginning of the sentence as a means to use it for a transition or just to vary our sentence structure. And so students kind of have to think about where that pause is, where the comma needs to go. So we did some examples in class, and some that students came up with today were to run cross country, comma, you must have a good endurance. To play boggle, comma, you must have a good vocabulary. And one more. To eat spinach, I need to cut it into tiny little pieces. In each of these cases, we've got to plus a verb, to run, to play, to eat, and then we've got some kind of a word or a phrase that comes after it just as a means of introducing it. And we've talked about them and called these phrases that can be taken out as basket phrases. They're just kind of added to a sentence. The sentence is absolutely correct just to say you must have a good endurance. You must have a good vocabulary. I need to cut it into tiny little pieces. The purpose of a basket phrase or an introductory phrase is just to add some more description or give some transition to your writing. So the last type actually has 2 different ways that this can be written, and that's a compound sentence. And we've talked about this. The homework last week covered this idea of a comma conjunction or a comma fanboy. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, or so is our last one. I don't know why it's not on here, but these are our conjunctions, and when we see them, with, sorry about that, when we see them with a comma, it sometimes indicates that we have a compound sentence. We usually look further to see is there a subject and a verb on both sides. And so our first step is to get rid of our prepositional phrases with a book and through the open window. I see that I've got a comma conjunction. What I want to know now is there a subject and a verb on both sides? She swatted it. She is the subject, swatted is the verb. On the other side I have it went soaring. It is the subject and went is the verb. So that is a compound sentence because we have a subject and a verb on both sides of our comma conjunction. So again, we did some examples and students wrote their own. The Katniss is afraid Peeta will die, comma, so she sneaks off to get him medicine. Our subject is Katniss, is the verb. We've got our comma conjunction so, she is the subject, sneaks is the verb. Now, if we take this sentence, another way that we can use this sentence and make a compound sentence is to try a semicolon instead of a comma conjunction. And so I have my same sentence, but instead of using a comma conjunction, I combine them with a semicolon. She swatted it with a book, semicolon, it went soaring through the open window. I'm connecting two complete sentences that are related, but instead of using a comma conjunction, I'm just trying another type, a varied sentence, a semicolon. And I've told students this is a little bit more of a sophisticated way of writing, trying something a little bit different. It's not one that I don't think students have used a lot or been taught a lot to use. And this is really probably the only purpose we're going to use it for right now. And I would just like to see students kind of experimenting with them. So if we look at this sentence, Katniss is afraid Peeta will die, so she sneaks off to get him medicine. If I delete my comma conjunction, I can substitute in a semicolon, and there I've got a compound sentence. We don't use a conjunction with a semicolon, and we don't need to capitalize this because, again, the sentence starts way over here with Katniss. Okay, and so these are our 7 or I guess 8 ways, because we have 2 ways to make a compound sentence, to vary our sentence structure.